Do you see a movement here with firms going towards different niches operationally now? Like, because I, I'm just seeing a theme happening is, oh, we're looking at build exact. I mean, our area is going to be built, or we're going to be doing square and really hammer hospitality. Do you see this as the next frontier is to not just put that you niche on your website, but actually niche, like where you understand the operational drivers of a business in areas?
I think that the selection of a niche also varies with the size of the business as well. So, what we then end up with in some of our larger clients where they've got a couple of hundred staff is departments with niches. So, but I think a niche is a very powerful thing, and not just for Power BI reporting, but I think it's a powerful thing for firms as a whole as well. What Power BI at Tani can do is actually accelerate. Look at exponential growth. We're seeing more and more that firms are going into this. We got a call the other day from a firm who had 200 pubs that they want to benchmark. Okay. What better place to do that than starting to look at it inside Power BI, bringing them all together to start benchmarking. We're seeing a lot of firms not having one vertical, but maybe having two or three in there. And look, we've got a lot of generalist firms out there, and I'm not saying that generalist is bad. I just think that as we start moving to operational type reporting, having that background knowledge can be very powerful in this space. Or what firms need to do is actually need to have a third party join on with them in the journey. So say you're targeting agricultural clients, having someone who is an expert in ag joining in to that journey as well. But then obviously that reduces flexibility to a degree at the same time. So I think we understand. I think we're seeing teams that are specializing in firms. And I certainly see firms that are laser focused on particular niches, especially around building, construction, hospitality. Retail seems to be the biggest areas where we just have firms that say, no, for us to be a master in this area, we need to be laser focused. But like with all firms, you're not going to turn a family group that has construction, but also has another business type. You're still going to try and look after the whole client, right? So we're not saying that everyone's only 100% dedicated to that niche, but there's this mindset, there's this prerogative to be able to focus.
I think it'll be extremely important over the next 5 years. It'll be what I think probably 5 years ago, we thought it was going to be really important in 5 years' time. And I still think there's a way to go. I look at our clients, I go, well, we're not really doing any operational reporting for people when we need to be. And then I look at what some other firms are doing around forecasting and how it can all actually come together. How do you forecast a profit and loss and therefore a three-way balance sheet cash flow if you don't have some insight into their operational data? You're just pulling numbers out of your ass. Like, you really are. People are just, what do you think your sales are going to be in next month? And the business might know, all right? The business owner will probably have their finger on that. What do you think your income's going to be in 12 months' time? Or in 3 months' time? They're going to be guessing. But if you can get into the operational data and actually see what is in the pipeline, and look at the client we work with does the retaining walls, all right? We could actually use their operational data and we'd be actually able to see what they have built up in jobs that they have won that they have not yet started, right? And we would be able to see what their forecast revenue should be for at least the next quarter, because they'd typically be carrying at least a quarter of revenue in jobs that they haven't started yet.
So what's the hold up? Is it that you are just too busy to transition at this point in time? Like, speaking as a whole, accountability, I mean, you just got so much work on the go that you haven't been able to work on it? Or is it the fact that businesses are still, that transition to the cloud operationally is, obviously we're at a higher percentage now with zero, like financial data, but that movement to operational is still slow and lagging behind where there's.
It's probably multi-facet, I guess. Yes, we're super busy just getting on board new clients into, our team, which takes up heaps of my time. existing client work takes up a lot of my time, then yep, not as many businesses as you think are on a cloud operational system. Still a lot out there that are not. And then, to be honest, I think one of the biggest killers is the quality of the data in operational systems. I think those that I have connected to, I quite quickly look at and go, your data here is all over the place. You're not using the system correctly. You know, they're all limiting factors in terms of how much you're going to be able to do in that space.
Yep, that makes sense.
But having said that, by being able to connect to those systems and show a client that, right? For example, an engineering firm that we're about to connect to their workflow maps, I can guarantee that it's going to drive improvement to their data, right? So, you know, if you put a report in front of a manager or even an employee that tells them your timesheets aren't in for the last month, you know, eventually that's going to drive people to improve that.
Yeah.
We can't see where our business is going or what our performance is doing operationally if the data's not in there. So I think there's good value there for clients to improve their data by having it presented in front of them visually, that the data's not good enough.
Yeah, sure. This is a big area that everyone's interested in as well. What to charge, how much do we charge, how do you do it, how do you convince people to be on these sort of fees? And it's been an area where we've been, I guess, a little bit different from the accounting industry for quite some time, where for a long time we've had compliance clients who might be paying $3,000 or $5,000 a year for in compliance fees to $30,000 or $40,000 a year fees. And these, again, are small business owners. So even before Power BI, so 10 years ago, let's say when I was first joining Unicorn, then we'd have people come to us saying, we'd like to see if you could do our accounting. We say, why? And they said, our accountant's not is too expensive. You know, they charge us too much. And after a few questions, it turned out that it's not about the accountant charging too much, but rather they weren't seeing any kind of value from what they were getting from their accountant, because it was always reactive. They'd never be able to get them on the phone. Every time they picked them up on the phone, they'd be started to be charged in 6-minute increments. So it was always kind of an investment decision to call them, and so on and so forth. So we'd pick up these clients, be charging them more, and then also be picking up additional services for what they actually needed. And what they typically needed was that advisory service. And often also they didn't really know that they needed it, in terms of they weren't looking for a business coach per se, or they weren't looking to do a strategic planning day. But after, you know, 1 or 2 meetings with us, then they would walk out saying, this is exactly what I need. This is what I've been searching for. Someone to help me with my business, someone to help me grow my business. So back into the Power BI space in terms of pricing for that, then I see it as being, you've got kind of 3 big options here. So you'll have some clients who want to be able to, and these are typically your larger ones, who want to be able to purchase reports, make it their own, and then go their own way from there. So that's probably a one-off sort of fee where you're selling the development of that report, or even if you've already developed it, you're essentially selling your IP to them. And then they might take up the right subscription to Atani to make it work, and so on and so forth, because they don't particularly want to be bound or have a reliance on your own business or be locked into something along those lines. So occasionally we get people like that. We also do some work where the data is not necessary to go through Atani, I guess, where for example, there's a not-for-profit work we're working with at the moment who is using Microsoft Dynamics, and the data is readily available in Dataverse. So that's a once-off fee for us to develop the reports, provide it to them, and then maybe some ongoing fees afterwards for support and, you know, if they need things changed, that sort of thing. In terms of if you're looking at the Atani model though, then there's 2 ways that we prefer to do it. The first way, the traditional way that we've been doing it, is that we often see there's a need for our consulting services along with the data analytics. So it's kind of packaged up to say, we're going to produce these reports for you, but we're also going to be producing a budget and producing actual budget for that. We're also going to be helping you with your own pricing strategies, your marketing strategies, people, culture, environment, processes and systems or technological systems, putting that in place as your vision and your overall strategy. So there's a whole suite of consulting services where the analytics is kind of packaged into that. And then should the consulting services run its course, so we set out what we achieve to do, often what's happening now is that those clients will say, well, we still want to get these reports, at which point it's moved off to a subscription service. So essentially, we're paying our fees to a party, and then we're on-selling the service or the reports that we've built for our clients on a monthly model. And so in that, they get access to the reports. They might still get, they do still get reports emailed out to them on a regular basis. And we support those reports. So if something should go wrong, so occasionally our clients might do something weird in the data and it blips out, or there's an API outage, and for whatever reason, there's a chunk of data missing, then we're providing support and interference to investigate, see what's going wrong, and fix it so that, everything continues to function well without them having to have their own expertise in Power BI again. So you've got this outsourcing sort of service for their reports that they've become used to, that rely on, that would otherwise take them half a day, a week to produce. No kidding there as well, literally half a day of someone's job. And so it's a lot more cost effective for the small business owner then to have those people redeployed to be doing other work. And then, and that solves some opportunity costs for them as well. So yeah, I guess pricing wise, I would be saying package it into other services would be a good way of doing it it's an effective way of doing it. We can definitely say that it works. And that does require some kind of interest, I guess, in the management consulting sort of space or the business coaching sort of space. Or you can package it into a monthly sort of subscription fee. And that also works quite well and takes very little resistance as well.
So, okay.
I don't know what other accountants have said there as well, Cameron.
I think most have been very pro recurring, looking for all options need to lead to a recurring ending, even if there's a lot of work up front, has been basically their comment.
Actually, what I'll touch on there as well is, because I think you mentioned it earlier in the conversation, is work in progress. Is this I guess thing where you're looking at doing the development for these reports and you're seeing a big work in progress that you might want to be able to fill out, or you're thinking, well, is this going to be worthwhile over the lifespan of the customer and that sort of thing as well. So the way that we're approaching work in progress is, okay, the development work is necessary to produce these reports for these particular types of clients. However, the work in progress, while it might be necessary for your first client, you're also eating that whip for your second and your third and your fourth and your fifth. So that actually is spread across multiple clients, and then it's a game of scaling rather than it is a game of doing custom work for individual clients. Sure, you might need to change a few things here and there per client. There's small tweaks between different businesses that are in the same sort of industry that they might want to see slightly different numbers, or you need to do something to work out who's the productive labor workforce or something along those lines on the report. But usually that's really minor sort of stuff. So once you've developed your initial sort of templates, you're looking more along the lines of that sort of silver bullet sort of area where you've done a whole heap of the work. So you've developed a product instead of I guess that's the way to think about it, developing a product instead of.
Great question, actually, because I'm pretty happy with our financial reporting model. We'll only ever tweak it. We're investing heavily now in operational type reporting. Why is that important for us? Well, we run growth clubs each quarter where we get clients in, on strategy, et cetera, et cetera. So our future, this is where our future of our practice wants to be in data analytics and business coaching. I personally believe they go hand in glove. And if you've got accountants wanting to be business advisors, it's a big gap to go from just being an accountant over to be a business coach or advisor. And I think you can use the data and analytics as a segue to get them across that path a lot easier. And I'm testing that model at the moment. I think I'm going to be right.
So the difference there, like how do you find so far in your journey with operational data, like how your clients consume operational data? I mean, I've always said for a while now that CFOs, if they're not offering operational reporting to the board, then they're not really doing their job. But practice, it's slightly different. It's still a lot more management reporting and financial reporting focused.
Yeah, and you got to not fall in that trap too much. So I guess we have a little bit. You've just got to work harder on the operational type data. And where we work, we've got Phil Tim's really helped us on operational type data. He's a guy that's on, a very large business called AJ Coombs before he sold it to, I think it was his fellow team members. So he said, these operational reports I used to like on different things. So we went and built it.
Yeah, it's because it's richer and more useful.
And the trickiest one is probably sales forecasting. And we're working with a business at the moment trying to work out how we can do that. So we know when the quotes are won, we can track all that information. It doesn't mean because the quote's won, if it's a 6-month project or a 3-month project, we've got to try and map out when our sales are going to land, because we've still got to, hit our budget for break even and next target for obviously making money. So we need to track the sales forecast pretty closely. And that is a tricky thing to do, I've got to say.
Yep, definitely.
That's what we're working hard on now. So on the job costing thing, we've got that nailed, but on the sales forecasting, we've got some work to do.